Hello, Issue Space community. This is Kat Otto, the creator of the space. Stay tuned at the end of this episode to hear about an Issue Space partner that I think you're going to love. Hello there, and welcome to Issue Space. We are a podcast and community for everyone who's working to save the world. I'm Kat Otto. I'm an inclusive social impact strategist, and I created Issue Space because working on change is really hard, and it's even weirder doing it in a 9-to-5. So we hold space to process the lived experience of choosing a career in social change. Thank you for being here, and check out more of what we're getting up to at www.issuespacemedia.com. This episode of the Issue Space podcast is called Off the Clock: How Impact Pros Are Living Their Values at Work and Outside it. And when I first was thinking about this conversation, which we're going to have with three amazing conversationalists I can't wait to tell you about, I was thinking about it from the perspective of kind of like balance and burnout. Thinking about, there is just no shortage of crisis and pain and social unrest and political strife, like all of these pressing forces around us all the time. How are people who have chosen purpose-driven careers holding that balance? Are they still finding that they're able to live their values at work? Are they finding other outlets for it? And I think that question has gotten even more salient. We are recording this live in New York in July 2025, in I don't even know what wave of federal layoff, and just so many of the things that have happened politically just have a straight line to the social impact workforce. And so now it's less even a question of like, where do you want to live your values, but like, do you even have an outlet to do so? Does your job still exist? Does your fund still exist? Does your organization still exist? So I'm hoping that in this conversation, we can take inspiration from one another about how we're still keeping on. Let me introduce our guests briefly, and then we'll hear from them in their own words. We are joined by Michelle Lampak, Director of Impact at Bobby, an infant nutrition company. Michelle heads Bobby for Change, which is a really robust advocacy effort helmed by the brand, touching on everything from maternal mortality to paid leave to supporting survivors of breast cancer and so many other causes that affect families, mothers, and babies. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Kat.
Oh, hi. I can already tell from that hi, it's going to be fun. From that knowing look. The other voice that you will hear or face you will see if you're watching this is that of Matthew Chavez. Matthew is a producer at the nonprofit Idealist, which helps folks take action on their values through jobs and volunteer work, community spaces. And he is also a public artist who's had a few notable installations and programs running here in New York City, but I will let him talk more about those. For now, I'll just say hello.
Hello.
Hi. Doesn't Matthew have a great podcast voice? I love it.
Thank you.
Oh, don't now. And lastly, we're joined by Bryant Silva. Bryant is a digital organizing specialist at the global human rights organization Amnesty International, working out of their USA office and team here in New York. He's also the founder of Calma Football, a soccer apparel and advocacy organization that, again, I will stop talking about because he will share more about it later. But hi, how are you?
Hello, thank you for having me.
Of course, thank you for being here. Okay, I want to do a little down the line. I've given a very LinkedIn-y kind of headline about each of your work, but I would love if you would take us into what does your work, and I mean that in the most expansive version of the term, what does your social impact portfolio look like these days? And is there anything about your personal background that you bring with you into this work?
Am I first?
Michelle, please.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I was telling Kat earlier that she's hilarious, and I think I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the vibes. So this feels really wild to me because I just moved back to New York after 7 years in Oakland, and I moved back, when I say just, 3 weeks ago tomorrow. And I founded and led an immigrant rights nonprofit down the street. We incubated on 27th and 5th, starting in 2011. And I'm an immigrant rights attorney. I'm a human rights attorney, specifically for undocumented folks at a time when nobody was saying the word undocumented. And I lived through the previous first administration of who's currently in office. And we built rapid response networks for the first time in New York. There wasn't one in 2017. I was pregnant, 7 months pregnant, when the Muslim ban was announced, and I was at JFK. And before I gave birth in April of 2017, between that time, I did 40 Know Your Rights presentations all over New York City. So thank you. So that
I couldn't like I had to rest walking down the street when I was pregnant. I literally made my husband open the car door so I could sit down in the middle of the block. So like 40 presentations on Know Your Rights, like the Lord's work.
Thank you. My husband was with me for some of the time. The community was with me. But it wasn't easy, but this work isn't easy. I love the joy. And I also love to acknowledge that it can be physically, emotionally, spiritually challenging. And so I come to you with that. But it's just, I have a feeling just being back in New York all of a sudden, and in this particular moment in time, this is the moment that we find each other and this work. And during that work, becoming a parent became such an important, essential, integral part of the work for me. And I decided eventually, and there's many years between 2017 and when this happened, but I stepped down from leading the organization because I knew I wanted to do something around parenthood, because my lived experience, which was second generation immigrant. So that's what led me to do immigrant rights work in the first place. But things changed, and I really believe that someone who's formerly undocumented or currently undocumented should lead the organization, which now that is the case, and I'm deeply proud of that. And it still lives and breathes. The organization is called Unlocal. It's here in New York City, serving thousands of people a year. But I wanted to do something that was directly connected to my lived experience at that time as a parent. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what that was going to be. I didn't know what shape it was going to take. I didn't know if it was going to involve still being an attorney. But are there any parents in the room? And I'm just trigger warning if that's not a journey for you or that it's a challenging one. So there's a couple. I have a little warning for you. Shit's not good out here for modern parenthood. We don't have systems to support what it looks like to have families in many different ways. One of those things is we don't have paid leave just to even take care of people who have birthed and non-birthing parents as well, to adjust to that time, to breastfeed longer, to bond with your child. There's so many things, and that's just one piece of it. But I knew I wanted to work in modern parenthood. And long story short, if you are feeding a baby, chest feeding, breastfeeding, there can be challenges with that. And I heard of Bobby, which is an infant formula company. When it went to market, when it launched, I just heard the mission to change, to support all feeding journeys, and to change how we support all feeding journeys. And that was like it for me. It was like, okay, because I knew that I didn't have that support for my feeding journey. It didn't matter that it was formula. It didn't matter like anything else, except that just lit a spark in me. And I made it my business to find the founders who were moms who had the experience of not being resourced or supported in their feeding journeys. And long story short, some months went by, there wasn't a role. And then there was a national infant formula shortage.
Oh, yeah.
In 2022. And I just went back to them. So that means what that meant was that all of the families in the United States that were reliant upon formula, infant formula, to feed their babies in one way or the other, there was a risk. And we actually didn't have enough infant formula to feed babies in the United States who were reliant upon formula. So there were moms, parents, caregivers who were going to sleep at night, who were strategizing about which retailer, which D2C site they were going to scrounge, and ended up hoarding. Many families understandably did, because they were not sure what they were going to feed their baby the next day. And I went back to the founders and I said, y'all need some policy. You need some social impact. Like, they were already doing some component of give back, but let's create a thing, a wrapper to do it. And they said, yeah, actually, we just wrote the job description for Bobby for Change and for the lead of that entity. And kind of the rest is history. So what I do in that role is support modern parenthood writ large. And I'll leave some space for the next folks. But everything from paid leave to up-leveling infant nutrition and making sure that we have resiliency and redundancy in that space, to supporting folks who medically can't nurse and babies who medically can't nurse. And there's really a 360 approach of federal policy, give back, and co-creation with our nonprofit partners, of which we have 6.
Just such a beautiful and inspiring, the audience is clapping, reacting, testimony of taking your pain and making somebody else's future better for it. That is one of the most beautiful parts of the social impact workforce that I wish was just like how people are. But it fills me with so much hope. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for the work that you do. Can I ask you an icebreaker?
Yes.
Okay, I ask everyone, we know what you do today. What work did you want to do when you were growing up? What was your dream job?
I wanted to sing.
You don't say.
Yes, I do.
Oh my God, so many performers and creatives, which is going to be a whole, we need to do a deep dive. Like, yeah, issue space karaoke. I love, okay, amazing. We'll park that and we'll come back, perhaps in song later.
In 2-part harmony.
Yes, absolutely. I'm a second soprano. Let me know. Okay, well we're going to regroup. Matthew Chavez, will you tell me in your own words what your work is?
First, I want to say I'm working on a musical
Wait, for real?
where this cat runs away from home to be a Zamboni driver.
Are you being...
To drive a Zamboni
Is this real?
floating out on the ice, that'd be the life for me. Yeah, it's a real
I would
thing.
invest. That is going to sell
Based
out.
on a real cat that runs away from a real apartment and goes to real local retail in New York where other cats live that help Buzz, the cat, get to Madison Square Garden where he becomes a Zamboni driver.
Why did the cat run away, though?
It's like, he
going on there?
dreams about being outside, You gotta have a dream.
Can we audition?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it right
Okay.
now.
After this, auditions.
All right, now my heart's beating really fast. I'll talk about 3 hats that I wear.
Okay.
And I'll start us off with how I ended up wearing the first one. It's September 2015. I have finished teaching English in Korea for a year. And I'm in Indonesia with some other co-teachers, experiencing life, having lots of fun, and so beautiful. Wow, amazing. And I'm just feeling like really unfulfilled. And I'm not exactly sure what my next thing is going to be, even though I've a friend, her dad had a company that sold like secondhand chocolate, like the chocolate that you sell to the dollar store the day after Valentine's Day.
I don't even...
And so I'm like, cool, maybe I can do sales at this my friend's dad's company. Or maybe I can substitute teach, or maybe I can do voiceover. Like, these are thoughts that I'm having. And I'm 2 hours away from my hostel that I was staying at in Ubud. And I crash on a motorbike. And I'm bleeding a lot from my foot. And this woman picks me up and takes me to the hospital. Rose. I think I still owe her like $50, which I need to go on like this pilgrimage to find her
Absolutely.
and give her like $1,000.
Justice for Rose. Oh my God, reparations.
Because she helps me get out of the hospital. But then I don't have like anything. I don't have like a working phone. I don't have any of this stuff. She like, I stay in this in her like family's villa that night. And I need medical help. And I don't have insurance in America. So I go back to Korea and I stay at a hospital for 3 weeks. And for whatever reason, the hospital that my friend helped me choose who lived there, no one really spoke English. And so I had lots of time to think about pain and isolation. And in a similar way that you thought about, based on your lived experience, where you wanted to apply the thing that you were experiencing to help someone else that might be experiencing that too through it, I really wanted to explore how to help people feel better about the stuff they feel bad about. Because I was very lucky. Even though I was in this bad situation, I was in a foreign country, I had family and I had friends and I had people that really helped me feel positive through it. And I have, emotional and spiritual fortitude that allowed me to move through it. I really thought like, wow, if I hadn't been like so loved by my parents as I was growing up, or if I hadn't had like the opportunity that I had or have this body, all these different things. So I went out and I set up a sign that said Secret Keeper, basically 2 weeks after I got to New York. And I started listening to people's secrets, and they could write down a little notebook of secrets. That evolved into a project called Subway Therapy, where I started listening to people and doing fake therapy sessions in the New York subway with strangers. I did that for about 8 months. And then after the election in 2016, when Trump was elected, the first time, I brought a bunch of writing materials to my office where I had a certificate of achievement and some wall art from the dollar store. And I just let people write. And then that became an art project that went viral, and I got noticed and ended up writing a book about it and different things like that. So that's my first hat. Installation artist.
That's all one hat?
That's one hat.
Oh,
I'm not gonna, no, don't worry. I'm not gonna
you
keep
guys.
going. But it's like, it's really important because I did that. Everyone was like, what are you doing? You're like doing therapy in the subway?
Do you diagnose people as well? Like
No. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a social worker.
You're bipolar.
It is not, no. But I did what I think any good friend would do for another friend who's really going through something. And people are going through things and they have no one to talk to. They shouldn't be sitting with me in the subway talking about their problems or how they're struggling with life. They should have other people to talk to. And so that really got me thinking about how to share that with other people, and also how to invite young people that might not have the opportunity to do the type of work that I was doing, that might not have the ability to take a risk, like be the subway therapist or go do a project where you listen to people's secrets or something like that. So that's hat number 2 is I started a nonprofit called Listening Lab. And I co-founded it with 5 young New Yorkers and 2 other professionals. And we do listening. We go out and talk to strangers. We focus on purpose and belonging and the loneliness epidemic. And we do content and all kinds of fun social things. If anybody wants to check it out, it's at listeninglab.nyc. And then that's active and going and amazing. We got our 501 in October.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then I work at Idealist. I'm the senior producer there. We do events. I do live streams, video content, all sorts of different things. And I help with a community action campaign that we're doing to invite people locally to do action wherever they are, to have social permission to do great things and imagine a better world, and then connect that all with a global effort that everyone can feel a part of. Those are my 3 hats.
What hats? Oh my goodness. So what really strikes me is that Michelle, I'm going to oversimplify it, but Michelle, it sounds like the spark for you was pain and lack that you transformed. And I feel for Matthew, it was gratitude in a moment of pain and lack.
Absolutely.
That you continue to pay forward, which is just so inspiring. Yeah, and I would love to return to the fact that you use a lot of creative and kind of community-based interpersonal constructs for your impact work. I'm working with a client now in strategy consulting who is trying to figure out what kind of what rung of the concentric circle of healing, social healing, do they want to own? And really wrestling with this notion of like, the hardest one to quantify is the kind of personal, interpersonal. And so I feel like people skip it. It's hard to like put it on an impact sheet and raise money and get funding for it, for that kind of healing. But it's so crucially important, to your point about the loneliness epidemic and just how people feel a sense of belonging or don't. I'm really interested and encouraged by the work that you're doing, even if it does feel more abstract.
It's very abstract, but it's also concrete. There are really amazing ways, especially with AI and emergent technology, that we can do reporting Like I'm not like a big proponent. I mean, reporting is important in the nonprofit sector. I think we all know that.
I see.
But like, I'm not good at it. I'm like the wily subway man, and that's where I want to be. I want to be in the subway talking to people. But when you're talking to people, you're probably not reporting.
Right.
So what's cool about doing recorded ephemera, sticky note projects, like, or if you do podcasting, or but like out in the wild, out on the street, you have these conversations that you can just put into Descript and get a nice transcript of. It's not that expensive. You can put that transcript into AI. You can pump out a report that sounds amazing. And so like now, what we're doing with Listening Lab in particular is we're really, I think, doing a wonderful job of taking these really meaningful conversations between two people that don't know each other. One, a trained listener that's been through a program of ours that would otherwise, we pay people to go out and talk to strangers. Young people don't know how to talk to each other, period.
It's not great.
So I give them the job to talk to other people. Like that's what being at a coffee shop or a grocery store used to be. You used to have this entry level job. You would talk to people. You'd be a meaningful member of your community that would smile and know people's lives. That just doesn't happen anymore. So we have to like create that job for ourselves. And it's also like those conversations are so fun to go through and like look at insights for. So we're starting to do a lot more research and insight work, which I think is really fascinating. And we're working with companies that have a hard time doing it, which I find fascinating because I think going out and talking to people that I'm directly serving is like the easiest thing in the world.
Different gifts. Brian, how about yourself? Can you talk to us about your world of impact?
Of course. Unfortunately, I cannot sing like my fellow panelists, but it's an honor to be up here with you all. I'm Brian Silva. I am a Ecuadorian American, son of immigrants. My folks came in the 90s to Queens, and I was born in Elmer's Hospital. So shout out to Queens and all of our Queens folks here. I think social activism kind of came to me, it's part of my identity. It's something that I can't really separate myself from, and that has evolved naturally. So I grew up in Clark, New Jersey, which is a very, very white town. Like, let's just put it straight up that way. I was like one of like 5 brown kids in my school. In my class. So there was racism like right up front, like having to defend myself. People think you're Mexican just because you're brown, and that's not the case. I'm like, I'm Ecuadorian. I'm not Mexican. And I would try to like educate people my age, teenagers, that did not work. I studied forensic psychology at John Jay College. So it's a CUNY institution. Shout out to CUNY. That's also where I met the love of my life, Sarah Venegas, right here. And we both studied forensic psychology. So you can imagine the conversations getting pretty interpersonal, Right after college, I was working for a nonprofit production company that produced social justice videos on like reproductive justice, criminal justice reform, specifically the company that made Rikers and American Jail. And it talked about how we were closing Rikers, or New York City wanted to close Rikers because, it's an atrocious place. Many people died there. Khalif Browder was in solitary confinement there and then committed suicide shortly after he was found to be acquitted of all charges and all that. Initially, when I went to John Jay, I wanted to be like an FBI profiler, to be honest with you. Like forensic psychology, you watch shows like CSI, you watch all the movies, you're like, oh, that seems interesting.
Right.
But then you learn about the prison industrial complex, and you learn how, police departments are incentivized to incarcerate people. So all of this sort of just made me really angry and changed my mind about things. That's when I was working for Public Square Media, Rikers and American Jail. I got the wonderful opportunity to work with Bill Moyers, who is a legendary journalist. Rest in peace. He passed away last month. And if you don't know who Bill Moyers is, definitely look him up and check out the Power of Myth with Joseph Campbell and watch those 6 episodes, and it will change your life. Yeah. The Goddess episode is beautiful. Naturally, After that, it was kind of like a fork in the road moment. I was working at the production company as like a production assistant. My title was communications associate. And what we were doing was setting up screenings across the country in different universities and colleges to engage young people on what mass incarceration is and what what was happening on Rikers Island and all that. At that moment, I had the opportunity to like go and continue working at a production company, which would have nothing to do with social justice, or work at the New York State Senate for a state representative out in Queens in Astoria. And I chose the latter. I chose to work for the state Senate, and I was there for 3 years. And then I got involved with like political campaigns. And then after that, I ended up in Amnesty International as a digital organizing specialist. I am still there today. So what I do at Amnesty as a digital organizing specialist is activate our members. So Amnesty International is a member-based organization. So members pay dues to be part of the organization, and they get to have some sort of say in what the board looks like and what sort of campaigns and advocacy projects the organization focuses on. And what I do is help mobilize our base in specific states. So I work with our state organizers, and we work on different issues from refugee and migrant rights to ending gun violence, tech and human rights here in New York, which focuses on like mass surveillance and ending police surveillance and biometrics being used by the NYPD. Amnesty International focuses a lot on human rights, obviously. Excuse my voice. On human rights. It was founded in 1961 and has produced research on a number of different human rights issues and atrocious things that happen around the world. A lot of these reports are used in the UN. The UN cites a lot of the research and reports that Amnesty produces. And yeah, we do a lot of good work in the United States and across the world.
Thank you. And then you have an initiative that's closer to home as well, right? With Calma?
Yes. So last year I founded a company called Calma Fútbol. That's Calma with a K. And really what Calma Fútbol is about is just to bring people together through the beautiful sport of soccer and cultivate joy, you know, because there's too much craziness in this world. You know, the world's gone a little, you know, off the edge, you know, and so we need some calma in this world, you know. And so what we do with Calma is, yes, we sell merch. We do custom jerseys for teams. We actually have some merch here today, but we organize tournaments that fundraise money for youth development programs. And we're really focused on, you know, having soccer be more accessible to our youth, to our migrant youth specifically. We had a wave of migrant youth come through in the last 5 years here in New York. And so this is just a positive outlet for folks. Calma is working with A3FC, which is a football program founded by Artists, Athletes, Activists, which is an official nonprofit run by Power Malou, who's an excellent activist in New York City. He was on the front lines of the migrant wave at Port Authority. We were also there, my girlfriend and I, you know, we had family and friends. As the buses arrived at Port Authority from Texas, you know, we would be there to welcome them and say, hey, welcome to New York. You're safe here. Do you need food? What are your needs? What do you need right now in this moment? And just helping direct them to services that they need.
Beautiful. And you have kind of a beautiful balance in your life of very immediate community support, like what you're describing there, and then this kind of like systemic, national, global view through the Amnesty outlet. Do you know what else I realized? I stopped asking icebreakers. So I don't know, Matt, how am I going to sleep? I don't know what you wanted to be when you grew up.
I sang already. What else do I need to do? I don't know if I had like a strong vision. I feel like I had like the classic ones. Like, I want to be a fireman, or like
I was going to say firefighter.
I did love animals, and so I really wanted to. I thought like veterinarian was really cool.
Okay. And what about you, Bryant?
Definitely a footballer. course. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
there
watching
we go.
Joga Bonito. I don't know if anybody knows what Joga Bonito is. If you just YouTube it, but like old school Ronaldinho, Messi doing like trick shots on stuff like that. Just like that was a huge inspiration. Wanted to like play in Europe and be a professional soccer player. But I suck, so
I
can't do
mean,
that.
but it makes Kama even more special because you have a love for the sport. Okay, so you've all kind of touched on your personal identities, or at least your personal backgrounds in terms of how they inspire you to do the work that you do. I'm curious about, we each have like our senses of self that's just like, this is who I am, this is what I care about, this is what areas of my heritage I tap into and draw strength from. And then we have versions of those identities that are projected upon us from the public, from history, from whatever the current rhetoric is. So to be like extremely reductive, Michelle, you're certainly white passing. I'm assuming you are a white woman. like I don't know. Always ask.
You are correct.
Matthew, you have like a spicy white last name, Chavez, but you present as a white man, which is also very interesting in the space of like progressive politics and social impact and just sort of what the figure of the white man kind of holds, both in history and in image. And then Bryant, as a Latino that has, I don't have a Latin background or experience, but my understanding is that there are very strong messages of community, of manhood, so I'm just curious if anybody feels called to speak about some of those more complex aspects of identity, because I've yet to have a conversation in this space where those things weren't a factor in why someone chose social impact work in the first place, or how they necessarily have to show up and move throughout this work.
It's an interesting question. I think that growing up in a working class household, seeing my mom clean homes every day, and my father, we come from he worked for Local 78, which is a union that removes asbestos here in New York. So I come from a union household, working class. I think a lot of these pieces of identity stick with you, like you're going shopping, you don't want to ask for too much, and so like you just kind of grow up sort of rolling with the punches, you don't ask too many questions, but that things could be better,
I see.
So I'm definitely grateful to the hard work that my parents put in. My father worked like 24-hour shifts out in Jackson Heights at a bakery, and then like would come back home, sleep for like 6 hours and go back to it because my mom wasn't able to work at that moment. But all of that, it shapes you, And then I think the first protest that I went to was when I was in 3rd grade. And I think my father took me out of school, and I think it was at Kane University in New Jersey, and like Bill Clinton and John Corzine or something were there talking. And like I ended up in the newspaper just like throwing my fist in the air. So like if anybody is like digitally savvy, you can go find that picture. But so it's just like ingrained in my blood, in my DNA. And so, but as I got older, what it came to be was just treat people how you want to be treated, just be a decent human being, and in some cases, like you see color, in some cases you don't see color, and I think that the more that we can see beyond religion, see beyond race, see beyond personal beliefs, the sooner that we will unify as a human race, or as just citizens of this country.
As I mentioned, my mother migrated here. My grandparents were Holocaust survivors and met in Budapest in Hungary. And then communism was coming to Budapest, so they fled and lived as displaced people in Brussels, which is where my mom was born. Multiple languages, tons of trauma, and eventually made their way to Forest Hills. And my mom grew up in this household where my grandmother was basically in and out of whatever they called like a nervous breakdown, at that time. And they were evicted multiple times. There were tons of highs and lows. And my mother was constantly looking for a parent that she never had. And so that relationship kind of was replicated. That desire for parenthood and caring came at my doorstep as the child. And my father was raised by his mom because his father died when he was 4 years old. So there was that all as the backdrop. But then for whatever reason, I was just this child that felt a deep amount of empathy. And I saw a world around me that seemed deeply troubled. And I started building things to kind of fix it. And my parents said, yes, the greatest calling that you can have is to make the world a better place. So for all of their trauma and challenges, they did try and create a stable ground from which I was to leap and change the world. And that has carried like with me that kind of migrant, like immigrants come and we start things. If it's not here, we build it.
It's true.
If it's not working, we fix it. And we're like dedicated to doing it as long and as hard as and to go at it as we need to. And that's why I just think migration is so beautiful, because you are coming to build something new and that never leaves you. Me and my cousins and my brother, we're all entrepreneurs. And I don't think that's a coincidence.
So well said. Matthew, what comes up for you?
So I have this white face. But what was really interesting growing up is that while I felt very, very comfortable in the whiteness that was cultivated for my family, I talk about this with Dina a lot, who's my Palestinian co-founder at Listening Lab. Both of us, even though we come from very different backgrounds, constantly hear the immigrant story. Like my grandmother came here like in a barrel, like these types of things, right? Or when my grandfather, whose last name was Chavez, was trying to get a home in the neighborhood where they ended up living, there was this doctor down the street who was like, we can't let a Mexican live in our neighborhood. And they were like, oh, don't worry, he's with a Conrado, a nice Italian, upstanding family in Gilroy, California. And that type of narrative I heard all the time. And while I am proud of the Hispanic heritage that my family has passed to me, it also felt deeply shameful, that part of the family, which was poor, which was to not be invited into nice neighborhoods. And there was this casting away of like the Hispanic side of the family so that they could survive in a community where they would be ostracized otherwise. Like, I did not learn Spanish. My grandfather did not speak Spanish. His parents didn't speak Spanish, and they were from LA. And I don't know when Spanish stopped like moving through that system, but it didn't make its way all the way to me, and I didn't cultivate it myself either. Even though I took many years of it in school, I had, and I love going to Mexico and speaking in Spanish, and I brush up on it, and I'm like, oh yes, the Chavez makes sense. And so I feel it like in my blood, and I want to be a part of that culture, but I'm also not. And so I'm like in this weird liminal space where I get to do things and I have the privilege of whiteness, but I have this last name that feels derelict. And that sucks. So, there are lots of different ways that I cultivate that, heritage in my life and in my family. And so it's so wonderful now I work with like an incredibly diverse group of people. I have never felt very comfortable in white spaces, which is always been a funny thing. Like whenever I go, I grew up in the Bay Area. I remember going to Hermosa Beach with an ex-girlfriend now, but a girlfriend at the time. And I was like, what is weird about this place? And my girlfriend was Assyrian. And she was like, what? And I was like, is everyone white? It was so weird. But I'm white. So like maybe that's like who I was supposed to like enjoy being around predominantly. But I've never really enjoyed being in that like homogenous of an environment. So like how it paints my work, a lot of young people that I work with come from different cultures. I have like I work very closely with Ben, who is Caribbean, and that culture plays into all the different conversations that we have about masculinity, about how we navigate the world. And he's Black and I'm white. And so when we're walking around in Queensbridge housing to do interviews on the street, people are like, oh, is there like a movie happening? Because it's just so weird that we're walking around together with, cameras. And so I love it. I think it's really interesting, but it certainly paints like what I think that I can do or should do. And because I'm in that liminal space, it also allows me to like go into places where people wouldn't normally go. Like I can sit in the New York subway and feel very comfortable because of the way that I look. I have like this comfortable face. And thank you.
You got the mustache going for you.
I got the mustache.
You gotta unleash the Chavez, man.
Yeah, it's all this, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's good,
No, I feel you though. You're not going to be like harassed by a police officer for loitering.
Yeah. And so like, I remember, I was on the like bike brigade at the front of the George Floyd protests, like getting my bike in front of cop cars that were trying to cut off what we were doing so that we could redirect ourselves. I'm like, right, arguably, like
I've done that too, but I think that's aspects of being a man. I mean, and I've seen women on the front line too.
Oh, of course.
How do you mean? Like what?
I think that it's more feasible for a man to say, I'm going to stand in front of this traffic and put my bike here and I'm going to stop traffic, and probably more so as a white man. But I have seen women there as well do the same. And so I think it just takes a ferocious voice and then multiple people to do it as well.
Yeah, totally.
It sounds like for each of you, it's a calling and less of like a burden to do this work. And I ask because I had like a light breakdown maybe like a month ago. I was in the part of Instagram that's like fake therapy, like just like really condensed.
Like what I do?
Like, yeah.
You mean wellness?
Yeah. Oh, right. I forgot. It's wellness. I feel so well.
Big wellness.
Yeah, big wellness. And like the conversation was about boundaries, like deeply important self-work, but it was basically, there was something that provoked this idea that like, if you like helping people and you're a Black woman, it's because you've internalized the idea that that's why you exist. And I was like, ooh. And I was like, but that's so, I couldn't separate it. And I had to like meditate on that for like a while of being like, is this me internalizing stuff that's been projected onto me? And where I landed was, I think it is still the core of me. Like, this is what motivates me. I don't really give a fuck about just like, let me go sell something just to sell it, or like brand something just to sell, like this is one of the hardest times to be in this work. And I'm like digging my nails, clawing, trying to stay in it because like, I just don't care that much about other things in the same way. So I feel confident saying that it is Catherine the person, but it really like threw me about, I mean, you can't really have an experience that's separate from, from the time you're a very small child, separate from what other people expect of you. So I guess just like a gut check, like, do you feel obligated to do the work that you do? Like, do you feel like it's like a penance or like an expectation, or a burden, or do you feel free in doing it? Because none of you are like light touch impact people. Like, you fully run like at a major brand, an impact division, and then you're still practicing law, you're still advocating. Matthew, you have your like, not official, but just like your idealist productions. And like, we all know how much work and time, creative productions take, community productions. And then you also have your nonprofit and your other initiatives. Bryant, digital organizing in one of the messiest times for digital anything and social anything. And you're in the cross section. And you have also launched this other initiative that also is very like logistics intensive, time intensive, so it's like, where is it all down to like the seed and the fire that your family planted within you? Or do you feel like, oh, I would feel like a horrible person if I wasn't doing this, or I would feel like I wasn't living up to some expectation if I wasn't doing this? Or do you know?
Did everyone here see Pretty Woman?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
When she goes to say goodbye to Kat, and she's like, don't you ever want to get out of here? And Kat's like, here? Like, where the fuck you want to go? Like, that is my answer to that. Where life is so unbelievably short. I truly do not know what tomorrow will be. When I look back, when I am on my deathbed and I look back at the legacy that I've left to my children, to the world, I want to know, like, in my bones, in my spirit, in my being, that I left this place better than it was before. Period. End. That is it for me. So there is nothing else that I want to be doing except changing the world in some way in the position that I am in. Whatever that position is, I will leverage that for good.
I relate to that.
Right on. Right on. You are a beast. You are a force to be reckoned with, I think. And I think it comes from your immigrant background, as you explained. And I think that resonates with me and probably a lot of listeners listening to this podcast right now. And that immigrant story is like, we will not give up, you know? We are relentless. And I don't see this doing the work as like a punishment. Or like, oh man, like I wish I was born into a rich family. I mean, sometimes, yeah, but no.
I mean,
no, never actually though, you know, because I want to be with the people. You know, I want to be able to be like Matt and talk to anybody on the street. You know, I want to be like Zoran Mamdani, who could like walk from like Washington Heights to like, you know, Battery Park and talk to like hundreds of people along the way, you know?
I respect that.
I feel very called to do the work that I'm doing. I would almost call it like possession. I just, when I was in Korea, I even like had this name that I thought I was going to go by and I didn't know what to do about it, which is Levy, which ended up being my artist name in the work, like the subway therapy work. I was like Levy, the subway therapist. And right before I came to New York, I was telling people, I was like, I think I'm going to like, I don't know. I'm going to get this job because I'm going to set up a sign that says secret keeper. And then it's just going to be my job. And people were like, my mom was like, what are you talking about? Like, I can't believe that she like let me, you know, like just have that fantasy and like let me do it. And my poor dad, who was like very much like a classic like working man. And he was like about a year into me being in New York, he was like preparing himself to like give me the, it's time to work, Matt. Talk.
Join us.
Yeah. And then I like this artwork goes viral and he, you know, comes to this award that I got, the Brendan Gill Prize that the Municipal Art Society gives. And he was like, you know, I realize I don't think I have any more advice to give you because I still can't believe that you're successful doing what you're doing. He didn't say it like that, but you know, that's essentially what he said. But I do think that there's maybe this like fortitude that the three of us have, right? Like there's kind of like this capacity for doing, which I think for people that do have it, I think you should do it. And I think that you shouldn't do it for the shareholder. I think you should do it for good. I think you should do it for people. And like I feel lucky that I don't necessarily know like the map of my life, but I certainly have a compass. And I just know that the things that I'm doing are on this like path of destiny or something that's like God has shown me or that it was pulling me in some way. Like there's just something about it that makes me feel like I'm on the right track. And I think not everybody has that. And not everybody has the like fortitude to do it either. So if you have both, you're probably already in the impact sector or something like that. But if you have like one, I think there's like a way to figure out how to get both.
Mm-hmm. Does any of your well-being ever suffer? So like our pithy title is Off the Clock because it's this idea of you're already committed to social impact in your career, but that still you're pushing for more opportunities to do this. And I was chatting with some friends a few weeks back and we were kind of like assessing how we deal with balance or not in that way. So like some of us were like, oh, I'm like a hardcore compartmentalizer. I have accepted and committed to spending 40 to 60 hours a week thinking about the world's problems. And then I am off the clock, like goodbye. I will be watching reality TV. I will be living my life. I will be sitting on a patio, having a cocktail, the end. Other people, it's a little bit more like woven throughout. So I'm just curious about like balance, well-being. Do you ever feel that you need a break? Are you breaking down now and like just pushing past
I'm in
it?
the
You
middle
have a
of a
crazy
break
look in your eye,
right now.
Matthew. Are you breaking down? You know, like what? Because
It's happening.
listen,
I think he's breaking down.
everything you said to infinity about fortitude and like the inner calling, and a lesson I always learn again and again is that I have a human body with limits and I need to do things like sleep, even though in my mind, I don't need to. The strength of my heart will carry me on. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, I'm curious about
that's so true.
that.
Because I think I saw an email at like 3:30 in the morning from Kat the other day. So I'm like,
Sometimes I forget to schedule and I send them live. This is a safe space. I don't need to be called out, Bryant.
So Idealist is my first job, arguably.
Okay.
I've been an artist forever, and then with Listening Lab, I'm more on the development side and a board member, and I'm arguably like a creative director, co-founder, whatever. And so, what's interesting about getting a paycheck every 2 weeks is that it's so wild if you haven't gotten one until you're 35 or 36. Like, it is so fascinating. Like, I've worked a lot of like different odd jobs and stuff. Like, I can't imagine that people do this. Like, since they're in their young 20s,
There's something to it.
There's something to it. You get the check. It feels good.
Look at that.
It's just like money rolls into your bank account every
Just
2 weeks.
rolls and
You just like get to go to the doctor whenever.
health insurance? What?
My foot kind of hurts. I think I'll go to the doctor.
the seduction of that corporate life.
That's crazy.
So I don't understand your answer to this question. Are you having a breakdown?
not having a breakdown. But it's interesting because like before I was working this job that's, arguably 9 to 5. And I love my boss, extremely flexible hours. Like I have a lot of flexibility. So I'm doing like 10 to 6 most days. But I'm also doing like 10 to 9 or 10 to 10. Like when you did your podcast at our space, I was there until 10 o'clock, 10:30. Didn't even think about it. Because like I'm not used to leaving at 5 or 6 and having like work-life boundaries. Like that's crazy to me. Because I'm just not used to it. And so it's so funny that like when I think about work-life balance, when I think about like cultivating that, like it's just not something from my background that I'd ever do. Work is in my life all the time, constantly thinking about different creative projects, constantly coming up with like different stuff. And so like I'm not saying it's necessarily a good thing. And like I definitely get into these burnout periods, but I also love feeling tired. I meet a lot of people that complain about how tired they are, and rightfully so. Capitalism is draining. Someone that spends like 10 hours a day doing this, doing UX for, Chase. Like, yeah, you should feel tired because that work is draining and it's not spiritually fulfilling. It's not emotionally fulfilling. Like, of course you're going to feel tired, but that sucks because then you have no spirit to do anything else.
Right.
And I think we're in this huge crisis of spirit right now. Like people aren't going to fill their spiritual cup anywhere. And their jobs are horribly vacuous. So like for me, even though I'll do 12-hour days doing production, I'll do 12-hour days doing like social good, doing Listening Lab, whatever, I'll like work on every weekend of my life, which drives all of my girlfriends crazy because they're like, I want to spend a nice Sunday relaxing because I'm so tired. And I'm like, well, you should get a different job. I'm going to work because this work is good. And it's what I feel called to do. So.
I hear you. You like the real, not creative like your department, but like the real spark of creativity. It's very hard to like, how do you put that in a schedule? That's why you're getting the shit at 3:30, Bryant, because that's when I felt inspired. But it's also like, yeah, it is, there's like the belief is kind of propelling you. And to your point, sometimes to the end of burnout, but like with Issue Space, to me, this is an impact offering. I'm not a program of whatever foundation. I am not an influencer with all this money to put towards this. Like we are scraping by, guys.
Where's the sponsor?
Sponsors. But you know what I mean? Like but I genuinely believe like, I think this will help right now. And like you have that thing that you like can't not hear. I wouldn't even know how to act normal if I was ignoring it.
I also, I don't know. Boundaries is like a wellness word to me that like is a little bit of a trigger. also because I don't have them. So maybe that's a thing, but I have to because I have children. So there is a piece that it's been imposed upon me. And quick story is that when I was doing immigration work and direct line front services work, I didn't have children, and there was never like, how could you stop writing that petition in the middle of the night? How could you not answer that call when somebody was being detained at 3 a.m.? Because that is life and death. And so I created a situation for myself in my work life that I believed so much in that purpose and that work that there really was never a good reason to stop. So there was that. And then I had children, and there was a lot moving around, and all of a sudden, like, people needed me in a meaningful way. And I very intentionally tried really hard to have kids. So then I wasn't going to go around the other side and be like, oh, well, I'm not going to pay attention to you because this other thing is more important. That's not okay. And just the LA fires happened, and I do rapid response work in my current job. And we were sending a lot of formula through several different initiatives and responding to families who had lost all of their breast milk supply in their freezers because their homes burned down and milk supplies dropped, and moms who were nursing no longer could. And we were managing a big project that I was handling. And it was 3 weeks of me working until 4 o'clock in the morning and responding. And my husband said to me, this is why you can't do this, because your family, it's great. And I'm so glad that you're fulfilled. And this was obviously really needed, but we need you more. Because there was a moment when the election happened where I said, do I need to go back to immigration work? Because this is my actual, like, clear skill set. And what I'm doing now, I love so much, but I also know that I'm going to be called. And then LA fires happen, and I was called in a different capacity, and we saw what rapid response looked like. And so my partner put a stake in the ground and said, you have these lives that are depending on you too, and you have to figure out a way to balance it. So it's not a static place of balance, but it is this kind of imposed external force of human lives too, that I don't want to look back at my life. Of course I want to say that, like, I've changed the world, but I also, like, want my kids to say that's my mom, and I'm proud of her, and she was there for me too.
Present, yeah, 100%.
What did that feel like in that moment? You have this person's like, no, we need you. Was there a part of you that, like, fought against that and were like, no, but there's, like, this bigger thing? Or, like, what did that feel like?
Yeah.
Subway
hey,
therapist.
Levy.
What would your mom
Levi.
have said?
Sounds like
I was like, you're right. You're right. But it also is a bit of an addiction, or it's not like a thing that you can immediately turn off. So I, spent a little time, the project kind of closed, and there wasn't that immediate urgent need. But there have been other rapid response things that have happened. I mean, we're doing work in Texas with the floods. There's been several things that have happened, not quite as, like, all in for us, where I have had a recent time of saying, okay, wait a second, you can't do this nonstop. And so it's kind of, sometimes it's asking for help within the community of folks that you work with, whether it's your colleague, whether there's a community of volunteers, or in our case, consumers. I get a lot of people on LinkedIn reaching out saying, like, how can I am called to the work that you're doing. How can I support you? And sometimes I think, like, our identity is so entwined with, like, being the one who's doing the thing that we can't let go, because you get something from that, right? And so to kind of be honest about that too, and self-reflective, like, you don't have to be the one that's, like, doing it all, both because you actually can't be the one, but also because it could be better and you could do more of it if you're pulling other people in, because they are called. And if you can be a light on for them, what does that mean for the lights that they can turn on for other people too?
Absolutely. Sustainability. I also hear kind of like a seasonality. I remember the first time I visited New York, I grew up in California, and I hadn't encountered homelessness in the same way. And I was very distressed. I was trying to stop with every person and, like, meaningfully engage and give every dollar. And there was somebody, like, I couldn't give $1 to, we had to run. And I was, like, beating myself up about it. And my mom was like, it won't always be your $1, but somebody else will give them $1. And I think about that all the time. I was a teenager. I'm almost 40. But I think about it all the time because it's a metaphor that I need. To your point, Michelle, like, maybe right now it's not my dollar. And like, do I have faith that there are other good people? I'm not the only good person on the planet. Like, there are other people who want to do good shit and who will lean in when it's their season. And seasonality is natural, and it's part of being in community, and it's part of being alive. And we should lean on that as well. Two-pronged closer to each of you. We've talked about where you are fitting your values and actions around impact, your callings, those things that keep you up, that energize you, but also pull your focus in a million directions, all the little crevices that you fit that into your life. We've talked about authenticity. We've talked about personal lineage, identity. I'm just curious if there's one thing that you want this audience of folks who work in social impact or who are deeply committed otherwise to social impact to take with them and carry forth in their own impact lives. And then I also want to hold space if you're working on something or excited about something in the impact space that you'd like this community to know about. So we can start with whoever's ready.
Empathy and compassion. I think we need more of it, point blank. Okay. We spoke about it before the panel discussion today, and it's rare to have two men talk about empathy and compassion. So to all the men listening to the podcast, learn how to think about what the other person might be thinking about or feeling, and we're social impact pros, that's the title, but like we are all impacting each other socially. We are social creatures, you can impact somebody by helping a mother like with their stroller up the stairs on the subway, or just like holding the door for somebody, or smiling at somebody. I think that we need to live with empathy, live with compassion, because you're right, there is spiritual warfare happening right now. And we need more light warriors, as Paulo Coelho would say, warriors of light, And it's hard. It's not easy. The burnout happens. And like you read these headlines and like these 100 kids that are already starving were killed or whatever. That's really depressing. That is really depressing. And then to read these headlines week after week, or to see families being separated by masked men pulling up in unmarked vans and thinking like, oh, wow, that could have just been my family 20 years ago. And it brings you to tears. Like it's not easy doing this work, seeing these stories, and then going back to like your perfect life, which is not perfect and always improve. But I mean, I have a roof over my head. I got clean water. I got a bed, and I got everything that I need. So there's a cognitive dissonance, I guess you could say. And it's painful at times to like be so privileged living in the United States. Like we're privileged as fuck here, And so just like recognizing that privilege and then just do good, just be good, just like live with love. I ran an Ironman race in 2023, Jones Beach. It was a half Ironman, so Ironman light, But in my training, I had a mantra. And my mantra, I don't know where it came from, but it was, do it for love and you will win, or you will succeed.
Aw,
like you'll
that's
make it to the
beautiful.
finish line. So I think that if you lead with love, which it seems like everybody on the stage does, especially in your conversations, Matt, like you're providing therapy to people, like you're seeing people feel seen, feel heard. Like that is beautiful, man. Like keep doing that. And you too, as a mother, and like everybody that's doing the work, just continue and lead with love. And check out calmafutbol.com. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want everybody to get their phones out and follow listeninglab.nyc. It's great. It's a very cool thing, and we do lots of fun conversations. Listening is really important right now. And also, one of the reasons I say that is because I want to know you. I want to connect with you. I also want to have lots of conversations with different people. Anybody that's listening to, if you have an interesting story to tell, if you have a story to tell about like the community that you impact and you want to share that with us, not only do I want to have that story to share through Listening Lab, but also through Idealist. We do different events at our office space, which is right down the street. It's beautiful. We'd love to put an event together that can benefit people. I'm very much an action person, so I'm going to give you like to-dos and things. With Idealist on 8/8, we're inviting people to do breakfast. So low-hanging fruit, bringing people together like this is so immeasurably important. And what's going on right now is, soft connections. I meet a few people in here a couple times. It makes me feel like we're a big family. But what's going on right now is there are people saying there's the enemy within, and then everybody feels like the enemy. And that is a really bad thing. And it cuts out this middle community space, and it only allows for the top level of government to be telling the lowest level of individuals what to do, how to think, who to trust. But the community is the core of society. Start a club. Creative Mornings has this amazing club platforms. Start a club. Do events like this. And if there's anybody out there that's listening who's like, man, I'm all dressed up, but I have nowhere to go, get in touch with me. Find a way. I will say, you can do it. That crazy idea that might make the world a better place. I will help you make it happen. I want to help you.
Yeah, thank you.
Give some space for that applause. Yes. I mentioned earlier that I use my position for good, whatever it is. So I call upon you all to use the position that you are in to open a door for someone else. It is so incredibly important, that one introduction, that nugget of wisdom. We all hold so much wisdom. And right now, more than ever, that can transform a moment, a career, a trajectory. And so I get a lot of inbounds from a lot of different places, and I can't possibly answer all of them, but I dedicate a decent amount of time to opening doors. Somebody's in the room who I had a conversation with kind of in that vein. And I take that very, very seriously, because there's not enough people opening doors for each other. So that is my kind of call to action. A couple of y'all said that you don't believe in like passing laws and political advocacy. Today we announced, so at Bobbie, BOBBIE, where I work, we've been working on for 5 years a federal bill that would cover infant formula or donor milk for moms or birthing people that medically can't nurse, or baby that medically can't nurse. But we learned about the problem through breast and gynecologic cancer because somebody DM'd us and said, this is really fucked up. The Affordable Care Act covers lactation consultants and breast pumps, but I don't have breasts. So our chief brand officer was like, oh, we'll just give you formula. No big deal. She didn't know anything about the law. She's like, and we should have a petition. And then 2 years later, I came in, and I've been working on it now for 3 years with this beautiful group of people. And we have bill text, we have a Democratic lead, and we are trying to get a Republican lead for a bipartisan introduction. And so we put it on social today. We have a couple of states that we are targeting to get a bipartisan introduction. And so many people were energized. And I'm not saying we're going to be able to do it. I'm not going to sit here with toxic positivity, but I'll be damned if I don't try. And so I will never give up, because I am here to deliver wins for humanity. And so I hope that that's why you're all here. I think that is, in whatever way, in whatever position you're in, let's deliver some wins.
Could you ever say it better? Thank you so much, Michelle, Matthew, Bryant. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives, your experience, your wisdom, your encouragement, your fire. That is this episode of the Issue Space podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to go to issuespacemedia.com and check us out. See you next time.
Hello, Issue Space community. This is Kat Otto, the creator of the space and the host of the Issue Space podcast. You might have caught that this episode of the podcast was recorded live. At this taping, we had a beautiful gift from a brand partner that I'm so excited to tell you about, called Blue Water Girls. Blue Water Girls was founded by 3 friends in Brooklyn, New York, who loved to travel to sunny destinations, but who hadn't always received positive messaging about darker complexions getting some sun. So they set out to challenge outdated narratives that stigmatize dark skin on people of color and introduce a product that gives skin of all tones a beautiful glow. Their signature serum is called Private Island Glow, and it is vacation in a bottle. It hydrates skin, delivers an instant glow, and helps skin of all shades achieve a deeper, natural tan when used in the sunlight. Side note, I have heard and can vouch for the fact that it smells amazing. Their serum is paraben-free, cruelty-free, vegan, dermatologist-tested, manufactured in the USA, and packaged with recycled materials. If you love your skin in any shade, you might be interested in this product, and you can visit bluewatergirls.co and order a private island glow for you.